Welcome to Demystifying Gay Porn. My name is Ike Grande, and if you watch gay porn, I've definitely helped you get off. Wow, very, very special guest this week. I'm very, very happy that we were able to put this together. The creator and owner of Himeros TV also happens to be one of the most popular YouTube stars. Digital storyteller, gay guru, Davey Wavey. Davey, how are you?
I'm so good.
Yeah, I'm so happy that you're here. I absolutely appreciate it.
Yeah, I'm so excited to talk with you.
Yeah. How do you want to get into this? Where do you want to go? Do you want to go to porn? You want to...
Well, you know what? For me, both journeys are so intertwined. It's like, it's almost chronologically makes the most sense. Because I started on YouTube, as you were saying, 2007. Thanks for reminding all of us. 15 fucking years.
Yeah.
I started making YouTube videos. And I think the irony in it is that like my approach to porn is really similar to how I approached YouTube, which was like, I wanted to have some sort of message. But like no one wants to be preached at or like, you know, talked to in that way. So it was like package it in a way that's funny or that's sexy, take your shirt off, like do whatever it is so that it's like a spoonful of sugar helps the medicine go down.
Yes.
Kind of like dipping the broccoli in chocolate.
Yeah. Okay.
So that was the approach on YouTube. And then of course that became the approach with the porn stuff that I create too.
And just to really quickly touch on that, because we did go into the YouTube channel, you didn't expect it to become what it became 15 years ago.
Oh my God. No, well, like YouTube was just starting. So there weren't like YouTubers. There wasn't this prospect of like making a living from YouTube. It was just this platform where people were sharing silly videos of themselves with their webcams. There was no production value.
Yeah.
Like you just open your camera, press record. And the videos that I was making were like the books that I was reading. I mean, it was like insanely boring content. And I just thought in 10 or 20 years, like I could look back and see where I was and what was important to me. Never occurred to me that like anyone was going to watch. Never occurred to me that this would be like my living at some point. And then YouTube was bought by Google. And so they quickly monetized it. We started getting checks from ad revenue. And very quickly I was making more money from YouTube than I was from like my real job. And pretty early on, I had a couple of videos that really took off. I caught my neighbor masturbating in Toronto. And turns out that's something people search for on YouTube. So yeah, my entire career is built on a masturbating neighbor in Toronto.
I love it.
Never got the chance to
did you ever meet him?
Never.
Really?
He was so hot. Too.
Oh, he was?
yeah, he was.
And you just were like, okay, well, he's doing his thing. And you picked up a camera and...
I think he was a webcam boy.
Okay.
Because it was like 4 p.m. every day. He would pull his dick out. And it was not even like he would just jerk off. It was like, you know, like 1 foot here, 1 foot here. Like it was a show.
Okay.
And I was a couple floors up and I could see him from my unit. And so 4 o'clock, you know, set my alarm and go to the window. And I would do like anything to try to get his attention. Like I was like cleaning the windows. I think at one point I got like a laser pointer. I was like, look at me. But nothing ever came of it. But I made a video about it.
Yeah.
Well, I guess everything came of it.
I wonder if you ever saw.
Yeah.
Like, because it's big enough, right? It was a viral video.
For the time it was. Yeah, I got a couple million views.
Yeah.
And it was just horny me talking about this hot guy that jerks off every day at 4 p.m. in my building.
Yeah.
So...
You have this insanely popular YouTube channel. What was the transition from, because you still have your channels, you still have the fitness channel, right?
I have my YouTube channel still. I don't do any fitness stuff, but the YouTube channel now is primarily like almost like a marketing vehicle for the work that we're doing on Himeros. Okay. Like I'm not really making a lot of videos where when I first started it was like coming out, how to talk to your family and friends. But I was in my 20s, like that's where I was personally. So that was interesting for me. Now I just can't. Like it's been done.
Well, yeah. You've approached it. You've talked about it.
Yeah. And also the stories of people like myself like have been disproportionately told, and it's like I don't feel the need to take up like more space in that world. But as I got into my 30s, what became really interesting for me was sex and sexuality. And YouTube, of course, it's not Twitter. Like there's a lot of limitations about what you can show, how you can even talk about things, the noises that you can make. I mean, it's like insanely restrictive. And over the years, it's actually become more and more and more restrictive. It feels like slowly, I mean, there's moments of like, oh, okay, like they make the right decision, but the general trajectory feels like we're becoming the Handmaid's Tale.
Yeah.
like that's what it feels like.
Yeah.
So the more I talked about sex, the more I was coming up against these restrictions. And at a certain point, it was like, geez, like maybe we should just make like a fucking porn site. And we all kind of just like laughed. And I was like, no, but maybe, maybe I really should. And then have like YouTube could cut me off the platform at any point. Like at least if I own my own platform, if I'm able to create the videos that I want to create as explicit as I want to create them, there's so much freedom in that. And then to charge a subscription for that, it makes it a viable business, strategy.
Okay, first, Himeros TV.
Yeah.
Where did the name come from?
Himeros is the Greek god of desire.
Mm-hmm.
So that's like part of it, but it's also the word him and then eros, so like male love. And then Himeros.com was already taken, obviously. So we went for Himeros.tv.
I wonder who has Himeros.com. Did you?
Yeah, I have no
look
idea.
into that?
Yeah,
No.
yeah, we're too far in at this point.
Yeah,
It's just
yeah,
Himeros.tv. Yeah, there's no turning back.
Yeah. I consider you, and we spoke a little bit off camera, but I consider you, because of the fact, and we talked about how unconventional, you ask certain questions because you're not familiar with how certain things work. You're a bit of a porn disruptor in the industry, in my eyes, because of what I see. There's definitely big porn and it exists, and it's in California.
Well, can I just say this? Like, I don't know a lot about like mainstream porn. Like, I know our approach.
What was your relationship with porn like before Himeros?
I think like a lot of people, I use porn not just to get off, but also to learn about gay sex. And so like when I was in college and I was watching SeanCody.com, I wasn't tuned into the fact that like, oh, these are two straight guys that are just like bumping their bodies together for money. Mm-hmm. I was like, oh, that's what pleasure looks like. Okay. And let me replicate that in the hookups that I have. And I remember this moment of, I think it was like my sophomore year. I just hooked up with my boyfriend. I was like covered in cum, and he was like, I want to talk to you because like having sex with you it feels a lot like porn. And I was like, oh, you're welcome. I'm like, that's awesome. Like, what a nice thing to say. And he was like, no, like that's not a compliment. Like it feels very performative. And it took me years to really realize what it was that he was saying, what he was offering there. Because I think a lot of people like myself, even though porn is designed to get you off, in a lack of any meaningful sex education, a lack of meaningful conversations about sex, older people that have gone through it teaching us, like none of that really seems to happen in any like meaningful way. People use what they see on screen as a template for what they do in their bedroom. So that was my relationship with porn, was using it in that way. And so with Himeros is like, well, if people are using porn in that way, even though it's not designed to teach you about intimacy, pleasure, connection, any of those things, what if we created porn that was still really hot, but that each video had some sort of message or theme that people could apply to the sex that they're having?
I like what you say about sex education, because I don't consider porn to be any kind of education.
Right.
I never did, but I also feel like because as gay men, we had a whole generation almost wiped out. I feel like that was always a big factor too. But I also think that studios should have, nobody has the moral responsibility to do it, but I think that it should be out there too. So I enjoy that about Himeros. I enjoy that's already in your mind frame.
Can I say one more thing?
Yeah, sure.
Because it's like, because everyone would be like, well, yeah, I know that porn isn't supposed to be sex education, right? I'm a grown ass man. Like, I know enough. Well, how many times do people use the word finishing as a synonym for ejaculation? It's because every fucking porn ends in an ejaculation. So you have this expectation that like, what is the bookmark at the end, or the bookend at the end of your sexual experience needs to be an ejaculation.
Needs to be a cum shot.
Yeah, like porn has shaped that in us. Our relationship with our boners, that the only currency of sexual connection is fucking. Like all these things come from the porn that we consume. So like it does shape the way that we interact with each other's bodies and our pleasure. So it's kind of just like acknowledging that and being like, okay, maybe we have a little bit of room to feed ourselves some other things too.
Yeah.
Kind of widen the perspective.
You had mentioned finding your place. You've done Himeros TV you launched 4 years ago?
Yeah, almost 5.
And it's been a process, right? You work with a lot of mainstream directors and stuff. Oh, that's another question I wanted to have real quick. What is it like getting mainstream directors or talking them into doing what they would consider hardcore pornography?
Yeah, it's interesting. I think we have the benefit of framing our content like a little bit differently. It's like, yes, it's porn, and also there's this other layer to it. Like, it's about celebrating different bodies. It's about showing actual pleasure, actual connection. What I found is that in working with like mainstream directors, the biggest benefit for them is that they learn different tools for telling stories. Even like the cinematographers that we work with, like it gives them more tools in their toolbox by filming real, authentic sex that they can apply to the other stories that they tell, like in the more mainstream world. And initially, I'm thinking in particular, one of the directors that we've worked with a lot, Matthew Lin, he has said that like when he is up for a position somewhere, up for a gig, that he likes to talk about it, and actually differentiates him from so many of the other directors that are there. He's like, yeah, I've done this. And instead of like treating it as this like little like, like, and
they're like, ooh, and they go for him.
Yeah. Cause like, oh, well, there's a great sex scene in this that we're going to be filming, and you have experience filming actual sex, like and knowing what's entailed there. Like it actually becomes, like a benefit.
It's good. Yeah.
It's a good thing.
I have a question about, we kind of answered it, but you had said somewhere, Himeros TV is like porn, but better.
Yeah.
Do you have any transgressions or bad feelings towards the gay porn industry?
Yeah. I feel both ways about that, because it's kind of a marketing tagline. Like it's like porn, but better. Because I love porn. I really enjoy it. And I don't think every fucking porn needs to teach you something. And like, sometimes I just want to watch like sketchy sex and just jerk off and enjoy it for what it is. So I don't mean to like make a hierarchy.
Because I'm just curious. I was like, wow, that's bold,
but bold,
but it's good.
Yeah. But in terms of maybe like production value, like the thought that goes into each video, like sure, that is elevated on Himeros TV. So if you want to compare in that perspective, it is better in a way. But yeah.
Have you associated, or have you been contacted or spoken to anybody in California, for instance, like the LA studios, Titan, Raging Stallion? Like, do you have a rapport with them, or are you just, doing your thing?
I think we just do our thing and like fly under the radar. And I love that. Like, I don't need to be like winning award. Like it's just, I want to create the content that I'm passionate about, regardless of how. I don't need someone else to say, oh, it's good, if I'm proud of it,
That's awesome.
I think what was surprising for me was like coming from a background in YouTube, like the Google would always instill in us a like deep sense of collaboration, that like if Tyler Oakley gets a book deal, it's good for me because it like raises all of us up, and so we would really celebrate each other's success. And like among gay YouTubers, like we're all kind of in the same community, and to really be there for one another. We'd have these gatherings, we'd get together, we would, like do team building exercises, and we really knew one another in a deep way. And then of course I transitioned into porn, and I just assumed, I'm like, well, it's also other queer people like creating this content they're really passionate about. I'm sure they're going to be excited that like I'm stepping into this industry, and also like bringing in a new audience of people that maybe haven't paid for porn before. And it was the exact opposite. It was like I went to the GayVN like expo, and it was just like closed doors. Like, what are you doing? This is a shrinking industry. It's really competitive. Like, we're all fighting for like our biggest piece of pizza from the pizza box as possible. And I'm like, well, we can make a bigger pizza. We can order another pizza.
Yeah.
It was competitive, and it was very like ego driven, and like I had to give a presentation at the GayVN about like what we're doing, or I was invited to. And I was like, oh wow, I've never felt like I've been in a room where people like wanted me to fail before until I did that. Yeah, like it was a lot of ego. And which to me is really just to say that there's a lot of insecurity and a lot of pain. And I also get that if your industry is shrinking year over year, the last thing you want is another person to come in. And who am I, right? Like people have been doing it for 20, 30, 40 years. And I'm like, I'm going to make some gay porn. Like, look how cool our videos are. And they're like, girl, who the fuck are you? Like, I've been doing this since VHS, So I get all of that. I was just surprised. I didn't anticipate it. Like, I was surprised by that.
One of the questions I had, and I definitely wrote them down, and I told you before, there's such a vast history of you online. I feel like I had to have a couple of questions down. But in regard to porn, so you say gay men are bored of the same old porn. Right. And you kind of answered this already, though, too. Do you think creating another porn site helps?
Yeah. So I think they're bored in the sense that, like, there's plenty of studios where for 20 or 30 years, they've been serving the exact same thing, the exact same way, and like the exact same hotel rooms, two guys that kind of look the same, going through the kissing, the sucking, the rimming, the fucking, the cum shot. And it's like, how many times you need to see that? Like, if that still is interesting to you, God bless, bless your heart. That's amazing. I'm 38 years old. That's kind of, at this point, I'm like, I need a little creativity. And like the sex that I have is like creative and it's interesting and it's dynamic. It doesn't always look the same. It's not always with the same people or in the same places, So like I wanted to create porn that's worthy of the title gay sex, like something that does a little bit more justice and, I don't know, just is unexpected. I love a porn that like maybe it takes you to a place that's like totally unexpected and yet totally delightful. And it means that we take a lot of risks. We swing and sometimes we miss. Not everything we do is awesome. And sometimes we take people on journeys that are like, like we did a whole series about grief, and it was a guy who lost his partner. And he goes through like the 5 stages of grief, and there's parts where there's tears and crying, and like I can just imagine someone like gets home from work and they're like, they pull their pants down, like they get their dick out and they're like, let's see what's on Himeros today, and they start jerking off. And then this guy's talking about his like dead partner, and crying, and you're like, well, okay, and you're
I can make this work.
Yeah, you're like using your tears for lube. You're like, is this hot? Like, what's going on?
So you're asking people to expand their ideas too. Like I get what you're saying. There were a couple that I saw that from the standpoint of gay porn, or from what I've learned from the people that I worked under, was, oh well, no, that's not, you can't do that, you can't do that. I forgot which one it was. For instance, like you had a scene that I think was like 12 to 15 minutes long, and they didn't start having full-on sex till like the last 3 minutes. And I was like, wow, that's different, because a lot of times, you're right, there is this formula where you kiss, you suck dick, you rim, and then you get right to it,
right.
And then you come.
Right.
And I think one of the models didn't come.
Right. And you're saying
like, okay,
full-on sex, but like maybe the full-on sex is like, you're meaning anal penetration, but like it's sometimes I have dinner with someone and it's sex. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like,
okay.
Like it's like kind of expanding like what we think of as sex. Like there's plenty of times where you don't want to get fucked, and yet you can have a completely ecstatic experience with someone. We did the video that comes to mind is it was with Chris Harder and Wesley Woods, and we did it as part of this retreat we did out in the desert. And the first like minute of the video is Chris affirming Wesley as like the human being that he is, and he's like, you are so beautiful and so generous with your energy and with your love. You are so deserving of touch and affection. And he goes on and on for a minute, and Wesley's just crying, like receiving this. And it's so much easier to look in the mirror and be like, you're a piece of shit, to talk ourselves down than it is to receive someone really affirming us. And then he proceeds he gives him this, he like washes his feet, he anoints his dick with oil, and he gives him this hand job, and his entire body by the end of it is shaking. His toes are curled. Like there's like, full body orgasmic energy just like seizing up and down him. And he has this like huge cum shot. They never fuck. Mm-hmm. No one leaves that video thinking like, oh, that wasn't worth it. Like that's a fucking journey.
Yeah. No, I was thinking about that now. When you put retreats together, right? When you have these models with you on retreats, how does it manifest? Like it's how many days, because it's immersive. Right.
It is. And we have like a formula that's emerged. Okay. And so it takes about a year to plan each shoot. So like we're doing the stuff for next summer right now, summer 2023. And the first thing is it's like finding a location, and usually the locations we find are like a large property that we can all stay at, but that's really remote. So people aren't like going out at night to bars or having grinder hookups. Like it's almost like summer camp. Like you're just stuck there, and you have no choice because there's nothing else around you, like for better or worse. like we did a shoot in the Arctic Circle in northern Sweden, and it was at this family's farmhouse that we rented from them, and they knew what we're doing, and
cool.
they were like, I said to the woman, I was like, "Are you sure? Because this has been in your family for hundreds of years." And she was like, "Well, yes, people have had sex in my house before." And I was like, "Oh, we are not in America right now.
So different.
We're so not in America." She's like, "Yes." So we'll find a place that's really, really remote. And we usually have 7 models that go with us, and then maybe another like 7 or 8 crew. And one of the crew will be a sex coach or a tantric instructor or sexologist or someone that has some sort of background, some sort of gay sex expert, like if you will, some guru. And we'll have an opening kind of as like a retreat would happen, like an opening circle. People can like offer an intention, like share what they're there, what they're excited about. And each day after breakfast, that teacher or instructor does a workshop with the models to build connection and intimacy and to give them like the tools that they'll need for the projects that we film that day. And each day we film 3 videos. And we kind of have to do that because of the cost that's involved. Like we're using, it's like the camera that they film Game of Thrones with and like the lenses from Handmaid's Tale. And like, it's really expensive. And so if we don't get multiple videos a day, then it's just not financially feasible. And that sex coach will work with each pairing of models like throughout the day to get them in the right headspace for their scene. And it's collaborative. So we have these concepts that the sex coach has written, but then he works with the models because on different days, you're going to feel different things. And so the sex that we ultimately get, the idea is that it's very authentic sex. Like it's very real. It's very alive for the models. And yeah, a lot of the times that looks different from,
There were times when I was watching it and a lot of things ran through my head. I thought boutique porn. I thought more European in the sense of art films that have non-simulated sex. What is it like to have a studio? It almost, and another thought, I was like, does he need to make this? He wants to make this. I'm not sure where it's going, but I think that we're all, especially behind the scenes, this is a hustler industry. And I just feel like, or hustler mentality too. Does it feel like a hustler mentality to you? Or does it feel like you have more space or more, you're able to do more and create more?
Can you explain what a hustler mentality?
Well, hustler mentality, like a rent boy or a rent man, I got to do this. And this will lead into models too, because I'm sure you have models that are just like, well, can't I just fuck him and leave?
Right.
So that's a hustler mentality. And the industry is hustler mentality. I mean, I think California is a little less than that because they want you there for, 8 to 12 hours on set, but they're still trying to make their money.
Right. Whereas we're doing 4 solid days of filming. Like you're going to be with us for 6 days. Like it's almost a week.
Yeah.
And it is kind of like a retreat. But each person that we work with, I interview. And I say to them, I'm like, if you want to show up and play the pizza boy, or the plumber that's here to unclog your pipes and like get your check and go, awesome. This is not the studio for you. Mm-hmm. But if you're really interested in like tapping into some real shit, if you want to be authentic and vulnerable on camera, if you're open to that, then like this could be really fun. Because the reality is probably for like 80% of models, like this isn't going to be fun. It's not going to be a good fit, So we have to find the right people to work with. It doesn't feel to me like we're hustling. I mean, it's funny because we'll get nominated for like best niche studio. I'm like, well, is it a niche? Like, I guess so. I guess it is. Like, what's the niche that we're appealing to? Like production value?
You're relaxed. Yeah. You're happy environment.
Our niche is like real sex that we're enjoying it. But each year we're growing by double digits, and the people who join our site never leave. Like the members just keep building, and then they tell their friends. So it's not. I guess it'd be inauthentic for me to say never think about what it is that the audience wants. But I think it's also an audience that's really primed for us to experiment and to do things different. And yeah, like sometimes the videos don't really land, and sometimes we go a little too far. We did a couple of them have been really edgy, and we'll get some pushback from that. But it's also nice to find those edges.
Do you know when a video doesn't land? Like, do you feel it?
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, because our comments, the comments that we get on Himeros TV are the smartest fucking like comments. Like people will read us, like they're really invested in what we're doing. So like we just did a series in Greece, and it was about Greek gods and goddesses. So it was like the archetypes that we as gay men embody.
Yeah, I think one of the interviews you did, you were planning for it. So
Totally.
I think it was like from last year or something.
Yeah. So we're like, well, let's go to Greece. Let's if we're gonna do Greek gods and goddesses, like fucking let's go to Greece. So we rented a villa on a mountain along the ocean. And the idea is like you would identify these archetypes in yourself or like in your partners or your fuck buddies, and like learn about what it is that archetype offers, what the balance is, like how to nurture that archetype. And so we filmed like, a video on Zeus and Apollo and Hera, and it was really fun, and that one landed. So like people were like, oh, okay, yeah, great. Like this is sexy, but it's also like useful. And then we'll do another video where we did one that involved like some toy weapons. They weren't real, but they looked real. And it was about like the perceptions that we have as gay men are no less harmful than literal weapons. Like the way that we look into the mirror and say, I'm a piece of shit. Like it is a form of violence. And so we were doing a physical, like a literal representation of that on camera. And that was like a step too far. For people. Yeah, it was.
What kind of weapons?
Like it was a fake handgun.
Okay.
And like at one point someone was getting fucked with like a fake handgun, and we found that edge. And it was like, it was a piece of art. Like that's what this, like it's something you would see in a gallery somewhere and be like, wow, like we had a trigger warning. Like people knew what was going to be in the video. So it's not like if you are the victim of violence, you might be like, yeah, I'm going to skip this one.
You're aiming your content towards gay and bisexual men. Why both? Because they're big enough demographics on their own. Yeah, I
mean, it's people who enjoy watching men have sex. So gay, bisexual, some straight women. Like it's whoever wants to be there. Like here's our offering, and I think from a perspective of like gay and bisexual men, but like it's whoever wants to show up.
Have you had women on set? Like, have you done straight films or straight erotic films?
So we've had like directors, producers, like crew who are female. But we haven't shot like straight because it's just not really our our thing.
Any interest in it or no?
I'd be more interested in shooting, I think, like doing what I did with Himeros, but for like a lesbian audience. I think like lesbian porn for like real lesbians, like not lesbian porn that's made for straight guys. Like, would be really interesting and fun, and it would look vastly different than what we do on Himeros, but I think that'd be a little bit fun. But we'll see.
I think so too. It's every time I think of like when they lesbian porn, I love that stuff. I'm like, it's not real, right?
Right. And it's if you ask a real lesbian porn, like lesbian, like what they want to see in porn, it's like, oh, I want to hear like how they met, and I want to hear like the first 10 minutes about their relationship.
Yeah, when they moved in, 15 minutes later. You had mentioned this, but Himeros TV, more of a porn collective, collaborative. When you are on set, are you watching everything? You're constantly on set, right? You're with them all the time.
Yeah.
You watch your baby kind of like just manifest. What does production look like to you, pre-production to post?
For me, the most important part is finding like the sex coach that we're gonna work with, and I think we probably partnered with a dozen over the years, and so when we find like a good partnership, and of course there's ones that we'll work with, multiple times, it's really finding what is alive for that person. So, we recently worked with a coach named Coach Nick, who lives out in San Diego, and he was a Catholic priest. Now he's a tantric instructor and body worker. And what was really alive for him was like healing the pain, the trauma that like religion has caused for our community. So he was like, I want to do a series of sacred sex. And we do 12 videos and we shoot, so 3 videos a day for 4 days. He's like, 7 of them I want to be like reclaiming of the religious imagery around the sacraments, like the Catholic sacraments, Eucharist, holy orders, whatever, marriage. And then the other 5 videos, we can reimagine popular Bible stories, but eroticize them.
Yeah.
And for people to see sexuality reclaimed in a spiritual context is really healing and beautiful. So we did like an Adam and Eve, but Adam and Steve story of like what it was like for the first, like imagining them having sex for the first time.
Yeah. That's already shot?
Yeah. So we did that in Vermont last summer. And we did all 7 sacraments, and so those have been kind of coming out, and it's, but that was alive for him. Like, that was it was alive,
So you gave him a lot of creative control for that.
Yeah, but not every instructor is going to be able to, like, he'll be like, okay, I want to do something on, the sacrament of baptism, and there's still like, there might not be a full story arc. Like, he's not necessarily going to think from a storytelling perspective. So we kind of get the framework, and then we'll work with myself, the director. We'll kind of get more people involved to shape each video so that there is more of an arc. And then we'll start plugging in models. We find the location, and a year later, then we're on set. And then
you are.
Yeah, and there we are.
Wow.
Yeah.
Shoot. I'd be interested in that one because I think I was actually reading a little bit about that one yesterday. Very important. I have a huge gripe with my Catholicism, but
Yeah, totally. It's
there.
trauma. It's like religious fucking trauma.
Yeah.
We did sometimes we'll do behind the scene documentaries, because it's hard to communicate like how different these sets are and like what happens and how nourishing it is and the sense of community. So we've been doing more of this behind the scenes content. And on the front of Himeros TV, if you scroll down all the way to the bottom, there's a section which you don't have to be a member to watch them. It's like our full length documentaries.
Very nice.
They're at the bottom of the page, and there's one about Coach Nick and like his experience with Catholicism and why we're doing this. And we filmed some of the videos in a church with like stained glass windows, and it was pretty cool.
There's a lot of beautiful imagery that's involved with Catholicism and Christianity and religion. It's just, it can be very toxic.
Totally. Yeah. Well, and because like, if you're having, like I mentioned, a full body orgasm earlier, like if you're having a full body orgasm, like that's an out of body, that's a fucking religious experience. Like you could see fucking like dead people when you're having a full body orgasm. And it's no wonder that like Catholicism, that many organized religions wanted to separate us from that personal power by telling us that our genitals are wrong, that anywhere that brings you pleasure, anything that brings you pleasure is naughty and bad, and to experience shame, because they want you to go to them for the power, not realize that you have it yourself. So anyway, that's another topic for another.
Yeah, I know that. We can go into that for like the whole podcast. Do you think a lot of your followers from YouTube have followed you to Himeros?
I think so. Yeah, I think that's the only reason I've been able to do this is because people who had been watching my channel for 5, 10, 15 years were excited about this like next evolution in my journey. And when we first started, like our first videos were like 2 minutes long. Like we really didn't know what we were doing, and finding that balance of like, well, what people want, it needs to be long enough to justify the price point. It was nice to have that initial following because they stuck with us. They were like, all right, yeah, like you'll figure this out. Here's my feedback. Work on it.
Cool.
I'm hanging in there. Whereas like if they didn't have the relationship with me and I just offered this website and the videos were 2 minutes long, it would just have lasted a couple months.
Okay.
So I think I was in a unique position to be able to like try something different.
Yeah.
In the industry.
I saw the Porn Star Bill of Rights. Would you explain a little bit about that and where it came from for you?
Yeah. So we have a Porn Star Bill of Rights, and part of that is like, if we were just asking models to play parts, to be the plumber or the pizza boy, like, some of that stuff becomes less important. But what we're asking people to do is to be vulnerable and to be authentic. And people aren't going to do that unless they feel safe. And that safety happens on a lot of different levels. Like part of it, yes, is the very obvious things like paying people like fairly, right? But then like there's the less obvious things, like after our shoot, where models have been on set and exploring things that maybe they haven't had the opportunity to explore in their own lives. We can't just throw them back into the world. So each model gets 5 counseling sessions after they shoot with us. And half of them, will not use it. and then the other half do. It's kind of it's optional, but it's there if people need it. And we work with this really great sex and intimacy coach named Finn Deerhart. And he, offers these sessions to the models and to help them kind of integrate some of the stuff that came up. It's also means like a non-fetishization policy. It means having the diversity of the crew, of the models reflected in the crew, right? That like, if you're in an industry that has over and over and over again objectified people that look like you, for whatever reason that is, and you go on set and you don't see anyone that looks like you, like you're not going to trust them to tell your story, right? So it happens on a lot of levels, but it's really about creating a safe space for the models. And it's not just me being a nice person, it's because like that's what is required by the content that we're getting. Like that, like Wesley would not have been crying and having full body orgasms if, it was just some set where he didn't feel comfortable and he was worried that the director was trying to sleep with him or that like it's, so it's about safety.
How much of that was yours?
What do you mean?
The Porn Star Bill of Rights. How much of that was your idea?
Well, I wrote it.
Okay.
So, yeah.
All right. So spirituality is absolutely important to you.
Mm-hmm.
How does what is your background in it?
In
spirituality, like what? Like, I know that you mentioned on the YouTube channel growing and exploring. Has spirituality always been there, or is it something like as you've gotten older, you've come to?
I think I just use different words. Like I'm an atheist. Like I was raised Catholic. Like not my thing. Tried it.
I feel you.
Yeah, did it long enough. Not my thing. But I think there's something beautiful in recognizing that we get one shot at this life. I'm not counting on anything to happen after I die. So in the 80, 90, 100 years that I'm here, I'm going to fucking like juice all the juice out of that orange. Do you know what I mean? Like I'm going to get every drop out. I think it inspires you to really live fully and to know that like we have beat the fucking like cosmic lottery to even be in existence. So like the idea of spending a second of that being anything less than authentic is just such a waste of time, or to live for someone else's rules, like not going to happen. Right. And, so that's kind of the philosophy and the approach I've taken in doing this website and in my own life.
Wow. It's not easy to get there.
Well, it's also why the website is like, it's brightly colored. Like it's about taking things out of the shadows and celebrating it. Like I wanted it to be about, a lot of people who've gone through religious backgrounds feel a tremendous amount of shame. And I wanted to be about whatever the opposite of that was. I didn't want to be like, this is going to, diminish your shame. No, this is about joy. This is taking your sex out of the shadows, bringing it into light, celebrating it for as complex and fucked up and wonderful and beautiful as it is. And that's, I think, when you start to tap into that joy around yourself.
I think it resonates very, very well in the stuff that you do. And the person you are. Like I tend to walk into these interviews a lot of times when I don't know the person, so it can go either way. But you were huggy, you're cool. I like that. You got good vibes, good bav.
I don't know. I don't even know what that is. I don't get out very much.
Bav is it's like a yoga term for like good energy and stuff.
Okay. Well, thank you.
You mentioned the use of your cameras and your equipment and stuff. I understand the difference, but I would like to hear from you. Like when you have a model making God knows how much a month with their cell phone cameras, you still want to do this with cinematic cameras.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because that's what's beautiful. I want to make like content that I think that I'm proud of, and I think using, a $100,000 camera, which we don't own, by the way, we rent them for different shoots. It also, not only do you capture sex in the most beautiful ways, like what feels worthy of seeing it like in a theater somewhere, but it also, I think, elevates the experience for everyone who's involved. They're like, okay, like I got to bring my A game. Like this is the real deal. Like they're not shooting this with some fucking iPhone. Like they've got like a scissor jib and like there's like someone pulling focus and there's like 2 people on camera and like, all right, I'm going to bring my A game. And it's like, why not film it in the most beautiful way possible? Sure, it's a little bit more work and it's more expensive, but like when you see those lens flares,
do you have a track?
Sometimes we do, yeah.
Yeah. Oh my
we
god,
do.
that's nice.
Yeah, we did a whole series though with the scissor jib that was like the camera just kind of like floats through space, and it's just like the most beautiful way of like seeing gay sex, and it's something new. It's something you don't see a lot. So for me, it feels worth it. Like I wouldn't be so personally invested if we were just kind of filming content that like didn't look great. Like I want people to say, "Wow," when they see something.
When you look at Himeros TV, right? You're here. What outside of making content now? What studios do you like? Or do you still have a healthy relationship with porn?
Yeah, I still watch it. Yeah.
Yeah. What kind do you want to mention? Maybe a couple that you watch. Maybe.
Yeah, I like different things about different studios. It's funny. The last shoot that we did for the videos were parodies of popular porn studios, and it wasn't really like, so we did a parody of Sean Cody.
Okay.
And so it was like 2 models like sitting on of course it's like
I grew up with them too.
Totally. Right. Like how could we not, right?
Yeah.
And of course it's like filmed with this like gorgeous camera and like the lights streaming in and like the models are glowing. I'm like, okay, no Sean Cody movie was ever this beautiful.
Yeah.
But okay, whatever. We're gonna roll
Stationary
with it.
camera.
Yeah. And so we had someone off camera pretending to be the director that, there's always like the Sean Cody interview at the beginning.
The off-screen voice.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's like the 2 models sitting on the couch and one's really broy and the other's like a total queen. It was played by Glittery Bottom. I don't know if you've ever seen him. That's his like Twitter handle.
I love it. Glittery Bottom.
He's like, you can call me Glit. So the guy off screen is like, so yeah, like you guys are both straight, right? And he's like, straight to his dick. like Is this your first time with a guy? My first time today. Like, and he just keeps femming it up the entire time. And he's like, but you do know, like we're shooting gay porn. Like you have me here to take his dick. Like, what are you talking? Like it's like a strong Cody film that becomes like self-aware.
Yeah.
And then we did another one, and it was a parody of guys in sweatpants, and we had one of the trans models that we were working with, and he had a like a packer. Mm-hmm. on his harness, and he's being interviewed by the pool, and then like he pulls his sweatpants down, and he's like a trans guy that has a pussy and like and a harness.
Yeah.
And so it was like so much of our porn. It's making commentary. It's not so much to be like to mean or to piss on these studios, but it's to like start this conversation about how like penis centric like our discussions around pleasure are, and that like good sex has very little to do with like a big dick or even a dick at all a lot of times.
Yeah.
So we kind of like used it as this like entry point, and it'll be kind of fun to see like how those land.
Yeah, I agree with you on that sense when it comes to stimulation. Sometimes it's more cerebral and mental. Like you don't really. I've had sexual experiences where I don't even want to come. It's you get the other person off by doing or saying something or telling a story, Do you have any fetishes? Or kinks or anything that you kind of like that you would want to share?
Yeah. Well,
that's my way of asking you, because I was going to ask you, is there anything about you that people might not know?
Yeah, they know it all. I like pretty much what I like is like exploring, like trying things that are different. Some stuff lands with me, some stuff doesn't,
mm-hmm.
but like I like kind of the curiosity of like trying stuff. So as long as it's not going to be painful or smell bad, then I'll try it. Yeah.
That's a good way to put it.
Yeah.
Everybody knows where to find you on YouTube. Do you have separate social media stuff for Himeros TV?
Yeah, we do. And it's funny. I think our Instagram, I don't manage it, so I don't know what it is. I think our Instagram is himeros.tv. I mean, the best place to go is just Himeros originality.tv. And you can, find our Twitter or all of the information there, or join the site and, and become part of this community of like-minded gay and bisexual men.
I've seen the stuff that you do in other places in Europe. And I think it's important to bring that kind of erotic video to the States. I don't think it's going to happen quickly. Because even our conversation, when we're talking about, they didn't have full on sex till 3 minutes. We're so programmed to think how sex is when you're watching porn. It's going to take a minute to break people out of, or deprogram people from that. But I really do hope it happens, because there's nothing I would love more than to see, not in a vicious way or anything, but there's nothing I'd love more to see than just the dismantling of something that can be detrimental at times. So I think that what Himeros TV stands for and how you're doing it, absolutely beautiful. So I can't wait. I want to watch more of it. I'd love to see this. I haven't seen the Greek one. How long is the Greek?
We have the first scene out, which is Zeus, and the next one I think comes out in a week or two, which is Ares. And then we'll release one every 8 weeks or so for 2 years. So
really?
You're gonna stick around.
Wow.
Yeah, okay. Around. Yeah, and thank you for having me, and also congratulations on a great season.
You've been watching Demystifying Gay Porn. I'm your host, Ike Grande. Demystifying Gay Porn is available on every podcast directory, as well as YouTube. Demystifying Gay Porn is on X, Instagram, Facebook, Telegram.
And if you like what you're watching or listening to and want to be a part of the creative process, head over to patreon.com/demystifyinggayporn, where you can help support this audiovisual podcast and YouTube channel, and I can continue making content like you've just enjoyed. Once again, this is Demystifying Gay Porn. My name is Ike Grande, and if you watch gay porn, I've definitely helped you get off. Cheers.